Welcome back to another episode of Bold Predictions with me, Annabelle. We are in week 8 of the NFL season already, and I've done 3 of these little bold prediction stuff. If you're new to the segment, it's basically where I preview the NFL games for the upcoming week, and I try to make predictions on which teams are going to win and, well, essentially lose. Last week, I had one of my best weeks for predictions. I believe I only got 4 games wrong. I know I got the Packers Texans game wrong. I got the Cardinals and Rams game. No, not the Cardinals and Rams. The Cardinals and the Chargers game wrong. I know I got the I forgot which other one it was. Oh, it was the Falcons Seahawks game wrong. And then I know there was one other game that I got wrong too. But I only got 4 wrong. And 4, I always say if I can get at least one game right, then I feel very good. But to only miss 4 and get the other things right, that felt very good to me. We'll see if we can keep that streak going heading into week 8. I do believe that this week is going to be my hardest week up to date. We have some tougher matchups. We have good teams playing against playing good teams. So it's going to be a lot of 50-50 for me, but we'll see. If I can get over 50% for this week, then I will feel good. Last week, to recap kind of what last week looked like, the Vikings got their first loss of the season to the Detroit Lions. The Cowboys had their bye week, which is definitely needed, and we'll see what they can do with that this week. The Carolina Panthers lost in great fashion to the Washington Commanders, 40-7. The Cardinals managed to pull off a late I think end of regulation field goal against the Chargers, so that helps them there. We saw the 49ers lose to the Chiefs. Chiefs are still undefeated, and the Ravens are steadily, in my opinion, climbing up the top of the leaderboard of the AFC. I still stand by. I said this in my first bold predictions that the AFC has better talent than the NFC. After 2 weeks of me doing this now, I still feel like it's true. I do think the AFC not only has better teams, but they have better talent to show for how these teams are winning and why they are winning by so many points, or how they're finding ways to go and win without some of their best players. But we'll see what's in store for us this week. Week 8. After this week, well, week 9, we are already halfway past the NFL season, which is crazy. This has been, we're only a month in at this point. I believe the season started at the beginning of September, like the first weekend of September or the second weekend. I'm not entirely quite sure, but first or second weekend. We're nearing the end of October right now. So next weekend will be November. So it's breezing by fast. Well, I'll take a look kind of after bold predictions next week. We'll put this episode out for week 8. We'll do week 9 bold predictions, and then I'll probably do another little bold predictions review where we just review the first 8 weeks of the season, or first 9 weeks, however you want to look at it, see how teams are doing there, and then we'll look to the remainder, the final 9 weeks of the season. Kind of do that, analyze, evaluate, and see what teams are going to be contenders for the playoffs and potentially the Super Bowl. But enough about that. Let's get into some predictions. Our first game is Vikings versus Rams, Thursday Night Football. I know I said I was going to try to upload these before Thursday, but got busy, so we have to record this on a Thursday, unfortunately. It's the 5-1 Vikings versus the 2-4 Rams. the Vikings lost last week. The Rams got a win against the Raiders, I believe. So we have the 5-1 Vikings versus the 2-4 Rams. I wrote down in my notes that I'm going with the Vikings. I know they lost to the Lions. The Lions are a really good football team, but I can just see them bouncing back from that loss. They also did not lose by very many. They only lost by 2 points. So it wasn't like a blowout win or anything. But I'm still going with the Vikings. The Rams are 2-4. They have a win against the 49ers in their division. And then they got a win against the Raiders, which the Raiders aren't really don't have that good of a record either. So I am going with the Vikings. I believe that they can bounce back and get another win to build up their resume and improve them to 6-1. Next game, Packers versus Jaguars. We have the 5-2 Packers versus the 2-5 Jaguars. Now, last week, I chose the Jaguars to win over the Patriots, and that prediction came true. The Jaguars did beat the Patriots, moving them up to 2 wins. And then we have the 5-2 Packers who lost to the Texans, but again, not by much. I believe they also only lost by 2 points. I am going with the Packers on this one. I know that they are coming fresh off of a loss, but it was a loss to a good team in the AFC, the Texans. The Jaguars, even though they won last week, they managed to get a win. It still was against a not so good team in the Patriots. And I can't just see the Green Bay Packers losing to a 2-5 Jaguars team when they have shown that they can also be really good teams. The Packers' only 2 losses so far have come to the Texans and to the Eagles. And with the Eagles, I believe they only lost by 4 or 5 points. So their losses aren't by double digits, which is another factor as to why I'm choosing them for this week. But I am going with the Packers. I would go with the Packers by 14. Next game, Cardinals, Dolphins. We have the 3-4 Cardinals versus the 2-4 Dolphins. This is a game where I truly believe it can be 50-50. We've seen the Cardinals beat a good team at the time. They did beat the 49ers, even though that's a game that the 49ers kind of gave away and should have won, but we can discuss that more later. I believe Tua is now cleared to come back to practice for the Dolphins. He did miss a couple of weeks due to a concussion. I don't know if he's going to play Sunday or not. I'd have to check and look into that. But if Tua were to play and it would be active Sunday, I would take the Dolphins. But since that uncertainty still kind of remains, I think I am going to go with the Dolphins, though. I like the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are kind of moving their way up in the NFC West standings, but the Dolphins, I just can't see them losing like 3 straight games or 2 straight games, however many games if they lost in a row without Tua. I do think that this is going to be the week where they come out victorious with the win, and it would be to the Cardinals. So I am going to go with the Dolphins. Next up, we have the 2-5 Jets versus the 1-6 Patriots. This again for me is a 50-50 shot because the Jets offense has not looked good ever since the firing of Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett being demoted. The Jets defense hasn't looked very good. The special teams has looked okay, but can definitely be improved. And then with the Patriots, I don't know what's going on with the offense, defense, the special team, the coaches, all that stuff. So this is truly 50-50. But I am going to go with the Jets for the sole reason of, even though Aaron Rodgers hasn't shown that he's been that elite quarterback that we've known him to be in previous years against Drake May, I would rather have a veteran quarterback than a rookie quarterback in this particular situation. So I would choose the veteran over the rookie. So I am going to go with the Jets, and I'm going to go with the Jets by 7. Next up, we have the Ravens versus the Browns. The Ravens are 5-2, and the Browns are 1-6. I have in my notes that the Browns have just started kind of like in a middle grid. If we were to like kind of visualize this as a graph, you have the Browns in the middle before week 1, and then it's just been a steady downfall since then. Whereas with the Ravens, we have them in the middle. They kind of started there, but then they've just moved their way up since. For that reason alone, I am going with the Ravens. Derrick Henry is running the ball extremely well. The Ravens are starting to look more like the team that we saw last season. Lamar is starting to look like the MVP candidate and winner that we knew him to be last season as well. And I I've said it before, but Deshaun Watson is not the same athlete nor the player that he was in 2019, 2020 when he was at his best. I haven't seen the Browns play a solid game from start to finish. I just haven't. And I've seen the Ravens, albeit they did start off a little bit slow at the start of the season. They're just continuing to improve and they're utilizing their team's strengths. I am going with the Ravens, and I would choose the Ravens by 17 in this particular scenario. Next up, the 4-2 Eagles versus the 3-4 Bengals. The Eagles are, I believe, at a tie for first place right now in the NFC East at 4-2. The Bengals are 3-4. This could be another one of those 50-50 games. But considering that the Eagles had a pretty big win last week, even I know oh, that's tricky. I'm going with the Eagles. I know I haven't really been that impressed with them, even though they only have 2 losses. I haven't been that impressed. They did have a pretty bad loss to the Buccaneers. They've also lost to the Falcons. They have beaten some good teams, but they still have a little bit of issues to fix. Whereas with the Bengals, I love Joe Burrow, but I just I'm just going with the Eagles here, and I would choose the Eagles probably by a touchdown. Next up, Colts and Texans. We have the 4-3 Colts versus the 5-2 Texans. This could be a really good game, in my opinion. The Colts are looking good, a lot better than they were looking last season. We have the Texans are still as good as ever. I'm gonna choose the Texans here. They had a good win against the Green Bay Packers. They've proven that they can beat good teams, even though they have a couple of losses too. I think their overall productivity has shown a lot. I don't know if the Colts can stack up with the Texans offense with who their quarterback is and CJ Stroud, but I'll go with the Texans, and I'll go with the Texans by 6 here. Next up, Titans versus Lions. The Titans are 1-5. The Lions are 5-1. I'm going with the Detroit Lions. Enough said. Like they managed to beat an undefeated Minnesota Vikings team last week. We saw what they did when they went to Dallas at Dallas's home stadium and completely demolished them. They've also beaten some good teams. Whereas with a 1-5 Titans team, I don't think the Titans defense can keep up with how the Lions offense moves, with how efficient that they run the ball, and with the level of with the IQ of Jared Goff, who can make tight passes, he can make throws where it seems like everything is just going to go downhill, and then boom, a miraculous throw to a wide receiver leads to yardages and most likely touchdowns. I've seen enough from Jared Goff for him to prove to me that he is one of the best quarterbacks right now at this moment in the NFC, and he is arguably top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL. But I'm going with the Lions here. It would have to take a lot for them to lose to the Titans, and the Titans would have to do everything possibly right to even make this a game. But going with the Lions, and Lions by 14. Next up, we have the battle of the 4-3 teams. The 4-3 Falcons versus the 4-3 Buccaneers. Another one of these games where it truly is 50-50. I know that the Falcons lost. No, did the Falcons win? No, the Falcons lost last week to the Seahawks. I remember because I picked them. And then we have the Buccaneers 2 at 4-3. Ooh. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers, I think. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. I like Baker Mayfield in this situation, even though Kirk Cousins is once again a veteran quarterback in the league. I think I've seen what Baker can do more than what I've seen Kirk Cousins do. And that's not meant to be a competition between the two quarterbacks. I just feel like Baker has the ability to move the ball faster, ability to run the ball further than maybe a player like Kirk Cousins. So that's why I'm going with the Bucks. I don't think it's going to be a blowout win. I could be wrong, but I think I'll take the Bucks by 7. Next up, Saints versus Chargers. The 2-5 Saints versus the 3-3 Chargers. Again, I think that's hard to predict who's going to come out with a win there. I'm going to go with the Chargers. I know that they lost last week, but they lost to a game-winning field goal. There's not much you can do there. But I do like the Chargers. And with the Saints, again, 2-5, the Saints beat the Carolina Panthers, which is truly not hard to do anymore, in my opinion. But they also did beat the Cowboys in pretty good fashion, too. So we'll see. I am going to stick with the Chargers, though, and I'm going to stick with the Chargers by 10. Next up, Bills Seahawks. The Bills are 5-2. The Seahawks are 4-3. I think the Seahawks are progressing in a good direction right now. Ever since losing to the 49ers, they came out with a win last week against the Seahawks. Not the Seahawks. They came out with a win against the Falcons. The Bills got a win. I think the Bills did get a win last week. 5-2. I'm gonna take the 5-2 Bills. Even though the Seahawks are looking better, I don't think that better is enough to go beat the Buffalo Bills, especially when Josh Allen is at his absolute best. The Seahawks need to play a flawless game. They need to establish exactly what they're going to do to hold Josh Allen to little yardage, make him throw the ball, put pressure on him to make those hard throws and potentially get sacks. The Seahawks have to have a game plan ready for how they're going to stop the Bills' offense. And I know that the Bills are going to come in ready for a game plan to do the exact same thing to Geno Smith and his offense and to the Seattle defense. And I know that the Bills' defense will also come prepared to do that stuff to Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense. So I'm done with the Bills, and I'll go with the Bills by 9. Bears Commanders. We have the 4-2 Bears versus the 5-2 Commanders. So the Commanders are actually first in the NFC East. I didn't realize that they had 5 wins. That puts the Eagles at second place right now. And then the Cowboys would be staying at third. And then the Giants, obviously, last place. The Commanders did win 40-7 against the Carolina Panthers last week. I don't don't think the Bears won though. They didn't win or they had their bye week last week. I'm gonna go with the Commanders. I'm liking Dan Campbell's coaching. The Commanders have definitely been a surprising team for me to see. I didn't think they were going to be this good. I knew with the hiring of former Dallas defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. I think I just said Dan Campbell for the Commanders. If I did, I apologize. But Dan Quinn, the former Cowboys defensive coordinator, what he's done at the head coaching position has been has been terrific. I know Jane Daniels came down with an injury. I want to say I know who the quarterback is filling in, but I don't. I don't think it's Sam Howell. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm pretty sure it's not Sam Howell. It's another quarterback. But I'm still going with the Commanders. Caleb Williams is good, but in week 8, good is not enough to win. You have to be great and you have to be almost exactly near perfect if you want to beat some of the better teams in the league. So I'm going with the Commanders. I'm going to go with the Commanders by 5. Next up, Chiefs Raiders. The Chiefs are 6-0, the only undefeated team left in the NFL, and the Raiders are 2-5. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes did not have his best game last week against the 49ers. He did throw 2 interceptions, but they still found a way to win. And when teams find a way to win, that shows me that the whole team is all in. And they know that even if their quarterback doesn't have a perfect game, if the team doesn't have the perfect game that they were envisioning, if you can still come in and take care of business, that's enough to move you on forward to the next week. And the Chiefs did that last week. The Raiders at 2-5. It is at the Raiders though, so I don't know how much of a difference that will make, but it seems like a crime not to pick the Kansas City Chiefs, so I am going to go with the Chiefs here. Next up, we have the 1-6 Carolina Panthers versus the 4-3 Denver Broncos. I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. I am not picking the Panthers to ever win a football game ever again, even though they are my favorite team. It's just been a like a downhill year for them. If the Broncos somehow lose to the Panthers, I will truly be shocked. I'm not gonna lie. Bo Nix is proving to be a good rookie. I don't think he's gonna win Rookie of the Year. I believe that title will most likely go to Jaden Daniels at this moment in time. But Bo Nix has been a pretty pleasant surprise for the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos are 4-3. They don't even have a losing record, unlike some of these other teams who were statistically better than them last season. But I am going with the Broncos. I'm gonna go with the Broncos by. I'm gonna go with the Broncos by 10. Yeah, I think the Panthers can make it a game. There's no question in my mind about that. I believe that the Panthers can make it a game, but it depends if they show up with their A game. And I have not seen an A game from them, even in their 1 win. If I had to grade the Panthers based on their 1 win this season, I would give their win a B. And then the rest of their games, I am more than happy to give out Fs and some Ds. But it will never exceed past a C unless they start winning. Then moving on to America's game of the week, at least my game of the week, it is Sunday Night Football. We're in for a great NFC matchup. We have the 3-3 Dallas Cowboys versus the 3-4 San Francisco 49ers. Now, let's get some clarity here, right? The Cowboys do not stink per se. I know it's easy to think that they're 3-3. They are still even at 500. So they have the same amount of wins as they do losses, but they don't necessarily stink. Are they not a good overall team? You can say that, yes, but that doesn't mean that they stink. Dak Prescott is still a good quarterback, although he can be a little messy with the ball sometimes. He is still a good quarterback. CeeDee Lamb is still a good wide receiver. The running backs can still run the ball occasionally sometimes, even though they might not have much success doing it, they still can run the ball. I think most of my concern right now lies with the Dallas defense. Their inability to stop the run is what's really holding me back from picking them to win any more games unless I see that they can actually do it. I know they went and got the win at the Steelers, which is awesome. That's a good resume boost. But then when you go on to the next week and you lose by 30 some points to the Detroit Lions as your home stadium, I don't know what to say there. With the 49ers too, the 49ers, three out of their four losses, the 49ers should have won. They should have been the Cardinals, they should have been the Rams, and they should have been the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings game was a game that they let slip away from them. I don't think they had that great of a fourth quarter. Same with the Rams. They blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter to allow the Rams the victory. And then with, I forget who their other loss was. Oh, yeah, with the Cardinals too. That was also winnable. I'd say the one loss that is truly not a game that I think that they could have won was against the Chiefs last week. They lost by 10. Brock Purdy was not at his best either. He did have over 200 yards, but he threw 3 interceptions, and 2 out of those 3 interceptions I saw were completely avoidable, and he shouldn't have tried to force that throw into coverage. But you can't go back and change the past. All you can do is move on. And it's hard too to say which team needs to win more because the Cowboys are sitting right now at third in their conference. The 49ers, I believe, are sitting second in their conference or maybe third. I think the Cardinals right now have the tiebreaker over them, but I know that they're better than the Rams. I also wrote here in my notes about the Cowboys versus the 49ers next 5 games. The Cowboys next 5 games, they have a home game against, let's just say, hypothetically, if the Cowboys win and they move to 4-3, their next 5 games, they have home game against the Falcons, at the Eagles, home against the Texans, away at the Commanders, and then home against the Giants. So let's say the Cowboys win, that puts them at 4-3. I know this is going to be the Cowboys' toughest stretch, and they have even harder opponents. But if the Cowboys can get 4 out of 5 wins in this 5-game stretch, I do believe that they can beat the Falcons. I do believe that they can beat the Eagles. We saw them beat the Eagles last year. If they can do the same thing again, that would be huge. I do believe that they can beat the Eagles. I don't know about the Texans. I think that's where I would allow their loss to come at there. But I do believe that they can go beat the Commanders, and they've obviously beaten the Giants before. So that with the 4 wins, if they get that puts them at 8-4, if hypothetically they were to win Sunday Night Football and then go win 4 out of their next 5 games. That puts them at 8-4. They're still in the playoff talks and the scenario in the playoff stage. But when you look at the 49ers upcoming schedule, they have at the Buccaneers, home against the Seahawks, at the Packers, at the Bills, and then a home game against the Bears. The 49ers have tougher opponents than the Dallas Cowboys do, which is why I argue that the 49ers need a win more if they want to even be in playoff discussion. They need to go win at their home stadium, and they have to beat the Dallas Cowboys. They just have to. Brock needs to take care of the ball better, which I know he knows. I know he's talked about it before, how he sometimes can get carried away with football, and then he'll try to force these throws to his receivers. If he allows that moment to come to him naturally, and he puts the ball in a perfect spot and trusts one of his players to make that catch and make that throw possible. I shouldn't say possible, make that catch possible, then I have no doubt that they can beat the Dallas Cowboys. I am going to choose the 49ers, however, just because they have a harder 5-game schedule than the Dallas Cowboys do. I think at 3-4, the Cowboys can afford to lose one more game, but that means that they would have to use their next 5 games to come out victorious with win. But I'm going with the 49ers. Even though the 49ers defense hasn't been that spectacular compared to past seasons, they I know they know how to get to the quarterback. This isn't the first time the 49ers and the Cowboys are playing one another. So hopefully we are in for a good treat. And then finally, Monday Night Football. It is the 2-5 Giants versus the 5-2 Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers. The Giants are in last place in their division. The Steelers, even though they lost to the Cowboys, did come through with a win last week, I believe. I think the Steelers were at their bye week last week, the more I think about it now. But I'm going with the Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers by I'm going with the Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers by 12 points. Yeah, I'm picking Steelers over the Giants. And that is it for bold predictions. I have no idea what the score is on Thursday Night Football right now, but maybe we can look that up quickly. Thursday Night Football. Ooh, right now it's tied 14-14. So this is a good game going on. It's not quite halftime yet. Yeah, it's almost halftime. There's 21 seconds left in the second quarter. But that's a good game going on. So maybe my prediction will be wrong. Maybe the Rams will come out with the win against the Vikings. But that's it for now. That's the end of bold predictions. Thanks for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for listening. If you're listening to this on Spotify, I love doing bold predictions. I have so much fun doing them. I feel like it's a way for me to kind of improve some of my improv. I'm not reading from a so-called script. I do have plans to put out some content in the future. I'm trying to pre-record stuff ahead of time so I can stay on top of, school, homework, jobs, other extracurricular activities. So I am trying to be a little bit more productive there. But that's it. I have nothing more to say. Once again, thank you so much for listening and watching. And we'll stay tuned next week for our week 9 bold predictions. And after that, folks, we're officially halfway done with the NFL season. Catch you soon.